There we are. That's a pleasing 7-iron to a downhill par 3. On the simulator, I'm playing the Coeur d'Alene course, which is on the North Canadian border. It's a beautiful golf course with pine trees and a lake. Now, the shot I just hit then was with a 7-iron, and for me it went about 155 yards down the hill. Now, those of you that play golf with a full swing, you know that it takes time to learn the full movement. And what I want to talk about in this part of lesson 30, part 1, is the way in which we learn in the early stages, but also how that has an impact on our game as intermediate players or expert players, because the way you start has a profound effect upon the journey and where you end up with your golf. And that's why it's a real privilege to teach beginners, because it's the first few minutes of coaching that can really set them on a pathway for life. So it's quite a responsibility for a teacher, but it's a great responsibility, and I love taking somebody who's never played golf, just fresh clay, and mould them into a golfer. It's one of the great pleasures of being a teaching professional. Now, when I started as an apprentice, I would earnestly go out into my first lesson with a new pupil, and I would give them 3 pieces of information. And in fairness, those pieces of information were good pieces of information. They came out of the P.G.A. training manual. Lesson 2, I would give the pupil 2 or 3 more pieces of information. And lesson 3, 2 or 3 more pieces. The net result of that, of course, was after 10 lessons, the pupil has a 30-piece jigsaw puzzle in their head, but no lid. In other words, he just keeps accumulating information. And that's what happens to most of us. The more we play, the more information we accrue. In other words, we end up with a bigger and bigger and bigger jigsaw puzzle. But think about it. Even if you're doing a 1,500-piece jigsaw puzzle, you put the piece together, it's going to look like the lid. It becomes one image. So whether you have a simple concept in your mind of a golf swing or a complex idea about the swing in your mind, when it comes to playing golf, you've got 1.8 seconds to hit the shot. I don't think you can carry too much information in your brain at that point. Now, going back to those early years of teaching, I would build a swing up from a quarter swing to a half swing to 3/4 and so on. So let me show you that. I'm just going to hit a little quarter 7-iron down the hill here. I would give the beginner pupil good grip and good posture. And if I turn to you, the Y shape of the arms and the club is evident, and that would be a quarter movement. This would be half a movement, 3/4 movement to a full movement. So in the first couple of lessons, using a T-peg and a 7-iron, we would just make quarter swings. And it's important that the goals you set for any pupil are achievable goals. We don't want to discourage them. You've got to make sure that whatever level you're teaching, the pupil has success early in the lesson. I hate to hear myself saying to a pupil, well, it's not come just yet, but you keep trying it and it will come, keep practicing. Really, you want to see fruit of the change taking place in the lesson. Even though it may not be consistent, you need to see that fruit in the lesson itself. So that was a quarter shot, and now it's going to build up to a half a shot. The ball's just going further and further down the hill. So in that lesson 3 or 4, with a 7 off a T-peg, the pupil has a concept of a grip and a posture, but the simple short turn now goes to 3/4 movement. So here we go, 3/4 swing. And I'm keeping quite a lot of control on that shot. Now, I think that's the safe way of teaching. But one of the things it does again fragment the swing. Often, with the beginner, if they're talented, if they've played other sports like tennis or cricket or table tennis or hockey, and they're good ball players with a good hand and eye coordination, they can actually start off with really quite a large swing. So if I felt I had a very competent pupil, I wouldn't be afraid to give them a half to 2/3 swing in the first lesson and to get an overall swinging motion. Again, I'd use a T-peg because a T-peg encourages a swinging blow and it makes the shot easier, and again, it builds confidence. So let's go up to the full swing now. So this is a full swing. So there we have it, building the swing up from small amounts, walking before you run, quarter, half, 3/4 and full swing. But don't be afraid with a competent pupil to make a 2/3 to 3/4 swing in the early stages and to use a T-peg. That way you encourage a swinging blow. So here we are in the Explanar golf training system. People think that Explanar is good for beginners. It's fabulous for beginners, but also equally good for intermediates and tour pros. Whatever level you need to improve your swing, Explanar can help. But as I said earlier, it's particularly beneficial when you're building the swing up for a novice or someone that's very new to the game. So here's my 7-iron. Now we don't ever use a real club on Explanar, we use the power roller. So I'm just using this purely as an indication. But this would be a 1/4 swing. This would be half a swing. This would be a 3/4 swing. And finally, we would have a full swing. Now the beauty with the Explanar, I think you get your penny and the bun. We can build the swing up a 1/4, a half, 3/4 and full. And although we're fragmenting it into bite-sized chunks, we're not making it a series of positions. It actually becomes a blended movement. So I'm just going to put the 7-iron down on the ground behind me and go to the power roller. Now the power roller is, in this case, a driver length shaft. So we go right down the bottom of the handle to make it feel like a 6-iron. And the Explanar has to be set to my physique and to the club that I'm using. So we just set the angle of Explanar through my upper sternum. And that measurement works for any person with any club. It's very, very easy to adjust Explanar and change the angle. So let me just say it again. You have to set the Explanar to your own physique and to the club that you're using. You see, with the driver, you'd have the Explanar set here, right up there with a wedge. So in between is about a 6-iron. So, taking my grip, you can see that there's a Y shape. My shoulders, arms and roller create a Y shape. So I just work on the 1/4 swing. Bite-sized chunks. I'm looking not for length of swing, but width of arc. And the reason I built Explanar was to teach you the first inch of the backswing. I think it's the hardest thing to do and the hardest thing to teach, to take somebody from this addressed position into a movement. To go from position which is static to movement which is dynamic is difficult. It is so easy to go arms and roller only. Okay, so when you do this drill in the Explanar and with the 1/4 shots of the 7-iron, we're looking for the shoulder, arms and club, or shoulder, arms and roller to work together. So this is a 1/4 swing. I can now build up to half a swing. So I'm working in bite-sized chunks, but I'm keeping the sense of tempo and of rhythm, width of arc. So there's half a swing. Now I can start acting this with a wrist hinge. It takes me to a 3/4 swing. And finally, once the pupils are competent at this level, we go to a full swing movement, which is 90 shoulder turn under the throat and a wrist hinge of 90 here. We then swing through and we get the mirror image. The right shoulders come through and there's 90 degrees of wrist hinge just there. So here we go, building the swing up a 1/4, half, 3/4, and eventually full. Now, as you know from my coaching, I'm always looking for golf swing movements rather than golf swing positions. There wasn't a position in the golf swing until somebody photographed a movement. You can copy a position and not achieve the movement you want. But if the movement is good, you'll almost certainly achieve the position that you, the pupil, and the coach wanted.